Um, Ata's space that he's been extremely helpful in. The students got to meet him, spend about an hour with him out at the Sunnyvale HQ office, very much in the image deep learning space. So Ata has a book out there and is extremely knowledgeable as well as very passionate when it comes to image recognition and deep learning. I've been at Target. Oh, sorry, Ata, if you want to add anything.
No, thank you. Yeah.
Good. I've been at Target here. I serve Luis and his team as the product owner, and annoyed Fred enough to let us be a corporate partner for him. It's been a great honor to do that. We've got Emily Pearl here who works with Kellen in regard to the Target Media Network. She understands understands Cartwheel, which is our application in regard to it's almost like online coupons and specials. That's special to Target because we can double stack. So she's very connected in the digital space as well as our application called Cartwheel, which is now part of the Target app. We've got Kellen. Kellen is our partner that brought to life the Target, brought to life the Stanford partnership together. So Kellen has been providing access to internal, external customers, been playing a point of contact for the students in regard to rounding out ideas. Couldn't do this without you, Kellen. We've got Todd here. Todd is the creator and the current leader of what we call the Guest Experience Center here. It's really I call it a lab. The students had a chance to see it, where all of the latest and greatest technologies are emerging. I'd say like in the retail space, meets Target, meets possibilities. So it's just an incredibly fascinating space. Similar to what we're doing here, they do, as I discovered a couple of weeks ago, they do the Executive Challenge, which has some very similar overlap with that. In the room with me is Luis Stevens, which is he is the leader for high performance compute at Target, and yeah, lucky to have. Did I leave anybody out? The 763-405-5281, I believe, is the room itself. Did I leave anybody else out? Great. Well, and to give all of you just a brief introduction, the Stanford students will introduce themselves in a minute, but we as Target, sought this partnership out in an opportunity to get an outside perspective with some great students that come with an incredible technical background. And Fred, who is on the line, who's sitting with the students right now, he teaches this class. And what's cool about this partnership is what he teaches in class. The corporate partnership is essentially the lab for these students to apply what they're learning. So it's I've sat in on now 2 classes. It's a very engaging experience. So these students have 10 weeks essentially to apply this product management class, what they're learning, and applying it in the real world, and specifically here at Target. So with that, would you guys like to further introduce yourselves?
Ah, fantastic. I think we can kick it off. So I will, Daniel, I'll just ask you to change slides for us every time we need that, if that's okay?
Yes, sir.
Fantastic. So good afternoon, everybody. Thank you, Todd, Ata, Emily, Kellen, Todd, and Louis for joining us. Thank you so much, Daniel and Kellen, for organizing this. And could we have the next slide, please? So fantastic. A brief overview of the team. I'm Anand Alvani. I'm a PhD in electrical engineering.
I'm Joseph Yan. I'm an electrical engineer I'm a master's in electrical engineering.
I'm Guillermo Gomez. I'm a master's in management science.
This is Javen Su. I'm doing master in computer science.
Fantastic. Could we have the next slide, please? And the class we are a part of is called the product management class. This is taught by Professor Fred Gibbons. He is with us in the room. And the part of the class is we have a corporate partnership with different companies. The 4 of us are partnered with Target, and in particular, our partners are Daniel and Kellen. They have been incredibly helpful in guiding us through the process. I'll keep this brief since I believe we have spoken to every one of y'all. But yeah, just a brief introduction. Could we have the next slide, please? So earlier in October, we visited the headquarters and we spoke with majority of the Target Media Network team members and got a fairly decent understanding of how how Target works, how TMN works, and everything on that end. Later on, we also visited the HPC in Sunnyvale. We met Lewis and Ata there and had a chance to discuss our technological ideas that we had progressed. And since then, we have come up with one more concrete proposal or area we'd like to discuss further with. Could you have the next slide, please? Fantastic. So just a brief overview of what today's presentation is going to look like. First, we'll give our understanding of the vendors and how they operate, our understanding of the people who shop at Target. Next will be the state of the retail analytics and what is currently out there in the market, who is doing what, and what Target can use. And finally, we will end with a product proposal or the space we want to operate in and what we believe we can provide to Target. Could we have the next slide, please? Daniel, next slide, please. Yeah, fantastic.
Hi, so this is Javen here. I will be presenting the first part where we spend some time trying to understand the vendors and their partnership with Target Media Network. So I'll talk about the vendor stories during our interviews with them, and the customer's jobs to be done where we found insights from our talk with them and finally understanding, so that should be understanding ecosystem around the in-store analytics space coming out from the conversations. Okay, so next slides, please. So thanks to Callan's coordination, we had the chance to talk with 3 vendors to TMM, so Clorox, Unilever, and SC Johnson. We try to understand their business and current partnership with Target and to see what current metrics and services they're getting from TMM. One valuable lesson we learned is that, so for all these vendors, they have more than 95% of their sales done in store, while for majority of the metrics they are collecting from TMM's report is online metrics. And point of sales data is pretty much the only metric they get from in-store. So we think some work can be done there. We then ask them if we are able to provide the metrics and data they will be interested in, what kind of in-store metrics would they be particularly interested in. And they all shared with us some interesting use cases or user stories in store. And we find several commonalities. And for example, they're all interested in consumer shopper pathing, like in store, like where they shop, where they stop. For example, Unilever shared a story about when they sometimes host a beauty concierge program in store, and they would be really interested to know, so after people go to the consultation at the concierge, would they actually go to the aisle to purchase the products that they were consulted for? And Clorox and SC Johnson all shared similar stories on how they would potentially be interested in using in-store data. So we think something can be done there. And finally, we ask them to give an estimate of the value add in terms of their marketing budget to TMM if we were able to provide the metrics that they were interested in. So they all gave number between 10 to 25%, which to us sounds like a worthwhile effort to pursue. The next slides, please. So summarizing our findings in these meetings, we think the value proposition is really there's something can be done in the in-store consumer insight space. We also did some market research and find out that according to a Deloitte survey of more than 90 marketing managers, they said that right now 7% of the marketing budget is spent on analytics alone, and that figure is expected to grow to 11% in 3 years. So analytics really is an important part of the marketing budget. And right now, as we know, all of the marketing analytics data is from the online space, and the in-store analytics space is really a big blue ocean that have not been tapped into. So we think a lot can be done there, and some product capabilities of interest would include store traffic, heat map analysis, or customer dwell time analysis, and most importantly is the ability to link customers' activities in store to the activities online that will enable the vendor to get a holistic picture of how people shop in retail overall. That really is the golden ticket that all vendors would want. That will enable them to do more personalized in-store marketing while, of course, observing Target's clean store policy. Next slide, please. So once we've nailed down to the in-store space, we spent some time trying to understand the in-store consumer ecosystem. We identified 4 important parts that's most important in the customer analytics ecosystem in store. First, you need to have shopper access. That's where you get the raw data from. And you will need a data collection process, which requires an infrastructure that enables you to get the data technologically. And then you will need an analytics team that can make insightful use of the data and have interesting conclusions or insights coming out of it. And finally, you will need a way to sell the reports or data to vendors. So understanding this, we realized that Target really has a unique position, unique strength in the ecosystem. Well, Target has more than 1,800 physical stores. It has in-store infrastructure built up for Bluetooth, RFID collection, and you have the high-performance computing team and the Big Red Data Hub that enables all the processing and collection of data. And we have the TMM Insights team who already have a lot of talents in data analytics and insights. And finally, there's already established relationship with all major vendors that will enable the delivery of the insights to vendors. Can we have the next slides, please?
So if you have any questions during our presentation, feel free to ask, and we'd appreciate any sort of feedback. If there aren't, in terms of understanding the first part, the vendors, we'll move on to understanding the shoppers. Okay.
So this is Todd. I had just one question.
Okay.
On the previous slide, you mentioned infrastructure that was there, which was RFID. Did you mean RFID tags present on our product, or were you talking about RFID infrastructure?
So we were referring to the RFID tags that are already present on all the clothing and shoe items that Target owns inside the stores, and also with the fact that we have the in-store managers taking the RFID scanners to get a very accurate inventory count of the items that are tagged.
Yeah. So for our understanding, that's the highest margin items and also our Target's own brand.
Yes.
I would say, yep, a lot of high own brand concentration, good margin, not always the highest, but very good margin. And then you answered it perfectly. I just wanted to make sure you weren't counting on overhead RFID infrastructure. You were counting on the handheld readers and the tags. So you're right on the mark. Thank you.
Yes, and we will be addressing how we're using the technology in part 4.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
So moving on to understanding the shoppers, we feel like it's really important to understand the shoppers that shop at Target or in retail in general, because in order to implement any sort of solution to gather more data and insights to our vendors, we'll have to use the solution through our shoppers and have them utilize whatever we make. And so we'll be looking into the Target shoppers, the consumers in retail, looking at 2 case studies of our competitors, Walmart and Amazon, and what they're doing in in-store analytics and our lessons learned in the end. Can you move on to the next slide?
Absolutely.
Great, thank you. Great. So our understanding of who shops at Target is that the population is usually more wealthier, they're middle class. From our understanding, only Amazon Prime shoppers are usually more wealthier. Walmart shoppers are on average like $10,000 less in average income. They're also usually married and female, and they are usually located in the Midwest and the South. And so this is our understanding of the majority of people that shop at Target. And what do they like? They like ultimately the big box store benefits without the cheap feel, which makes sense because they're ultimately a bit more wealthier. They like home essentials, affordable chic clothing, which also is in line with married families that have an interest of building a home and taking care of their families. And finally, a better in-store experience than Walmart. This is what Target is right now strong in, and we think that it's a positive step in respect to their competitors. And how do they shop? Right now, like Javen mentioned, most of the shoppers that shop at Target are still shopping in-store, even though online is growing fast. However, a recent trend is that more purchases are influenced by online information research before they actually purchase in-store. And so we can use that knowledge to ultimately find that personalization of products is the future of retail, because out of all of the different brands in a shop, you can go into any sort of Target shop and find thousands and thousands of brands. How do you personalize these products from your competitors? You have to understand the shopper and find what they like. And so some stats to back this up. For instance, if you look on the right, 75% of all internet users shop at Target properties, and 17 million people use the app that Target has right now. And so going on to the next slide, looking at the consumer trends in all of retail, so moving beyond just Target and inclusive of the whole retail space, we found that the online space has been drastically increasing, similar to Target's. They also, more online sales have been, in-store sales have been influenced by online. 80% of all in-store sales have been influenced by online in 2016. There also have been some changing norms. People are now more comfortable with technology being in their lives. So they've really like contactless shopping, or basically easy checkout, so they don't have to go to a normal checkout station. They also really like, they aren't afraid of smart cameras anymore inside the store. Nearly a third think that the technology is actually cool. And finally, ultimately, people still like to go in store. They like physically interacting with the clothes, with the perfumes, and they like to go and pick up products in fulfillment centers and replenishment centers and just these thousands of stores that Target has across the country. Great. And so going on to the next slide, we want to now look at the in-store analytics that our competitors are using through the consumer lens and see what we can learn from them, the pros and the cons. So Walmart actually uses something called Scan and Go. Scan and Go is an app where you can scan products while you are shopping in store, and also afterwards you just walk out the door and use an e-payment system, and you can pay without having to go through a traditional checkout station. They rolled it out to 150 stores, and it was actually very high rated. If you can see on the side, 4.9 stars with 25,000 ratings. But it was dropped earlier this year. And so we were wondering, how is something that was so highly rated, and looking through the reviews, people loved how it was more convenient, it was faster. Why was it dropped ultimately? So we found through some research, we actually found that a Walmart spokesperson said that it was really awkward for customers to hold their phone and scan every single item that they purchased. And often because of the barcode sometimes wasn't there, or the barcode was really shiny. And so not many people ended up participating in this app because it was just too awkward, too hard, and ultimately really inconvenient to the customer. And so that's a point that we want to stress a lot, is that any sort of solution needs to be convenient and add value to the customer. If we look at the next slide, yes, okay, perfect. Amazon Go is also a new solution that has been recently released in the last couple of years to 5 stores. This is Amazon's solution of in-store retail analytics. It basically involves a mobile app and in-store cameras that senses when you take out and take any product off the shelf, and there's also weight sensors in the shelves that confirm whether or not you took that product off the shelf. it was pretty highly reviewed as well, and we actually spoke with Amazon Go customers that went to these stores in San Francisco and one in Seattle. And they said that there was benefits. There were no queues, there were no checkout counters, and it made their shopping experience much faster because they could just pick up the product and leave. But there were quite a few negatives to the experience as well, ultimately in regards to time. There was delayed feedback. Updating the cart whenever they picked up their product onto their phone, it took 10 minutes. Also, generating the bill, you couldn't even see a total bill until you were 10 minutes outside of the store. And so they couldn't keep track of what products that they had. And if they had any sort of payment or miscount error, then they wouldn't even know until they were 10 minutes outside of the store. There was also an installation cost on the consumer where they had to set up a separate app outside of the normal Amazon app and log in with their sign-in details and their payment details before they could actually enter the store. And so there were a couple barriers to entry to the consumer before they could actually use this conveniently and to their, faster and convenient. If you can go to the next slide. So ultimately, what was our lesson learned? Our lesson learned was that our solution, what we're going to implement, has to be zero cost to shoppers. Or if there are any sort of cost, we have to add value to them, give them a sort of incentive to use our solution. And so this can come in multiple ways. After surveying the online space through hundreds of reviews and different studies, we found that there are 6 things that people want the most. They want an updated shopping cart. So basically, on your phone, have a list of things that you have currently bought and not having to wait until the end or when you're outside the door. An in-app shopping list where you can actually have your shopping list in one place and not have to switch between apps in order to find what you want to buy. Alerts when passing items just for the shopper's convenience so they know if they're in the right location or if there's anything that they might be interested in, any products. Coupons and promotions, of course, this is pretty obvious. Anytime you want to save money is good for the consumer. And map of product locations for the convenience as well. And finally, knowledgeable employees in case they have any sort of barriers to understanding how to use our solution and or if they just have any questions in general. So ultimately, all of this will provide a faster, a smoother, and a more convenient shopping experience for the consumer. And this is really important because in order for any solution to be implemented, to give more value to the vendors, we need something that ultimately has value to the consumers, the shoppers at Target as well. And so moving on.
So just any questions before we jump into the state of in-store analytics as we understand it?
What's that?
How much time do you have, Todd?
I have the full time. I have the full hour.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah, so we can take some questions or comments before we jump into the next section.
Okay.
No? Okay. So
we're kind of waiting till the end. I don't
sure.
know how I want to kind of
So
engage and stuff.
I'll be covering briefly the state of in-store analytics, looking at available technology, doing a deep dive on AVA, which is a retail analytics provider, comparing in-store analytics capabilities of different retailers in the US, and finally showing where there's potential for Target to do more. So on the next slide here, my point is that technology is available but underutilized. So there are lots of metrics you'd be interested in gathering in the retail space. Customer engagement and product interaction, for instance. In-store, customers can pick up products, put them down, try on clothing, different kinds of engagement. Some of that can be captured today using smart cameras, Bluetooth, and smart shelves. I estimate the penetration of these technologies is currently around 5%, so heavily underutilized. We can also look at dwell-time granular store traffic, so looking at foot traffic for a particular customer on a particular day. We can do A/B testing of store layout designs. That kind of data we can gather with smart cameras, Bluetooth and Wi-Fi interaction with customer phones, and smart carts as well. So that's another way to gather that data. Just based on research, I estimate the penetration of this technology is around 10%. Cashier-free automatic checkout, something like Amazon Go, requires smart cameras and advanced computer vision systems, or smart shelves plus smart carts. the penetration of this kind of technology is really, really low at, I estimate, less than 1%. Amazon Go is really leading that effort, and they've only rolled out 5 stores. To do something like identify the demographics of customers, if a store is willing to do that, we can use smart cameras and we can link store data to customer profiles. That is also not being done currently to the fullest extent, but there is potential for growth. So doing a deep dive now on the next slide with AVA Retail, a retail analytics provider. We're going to see what it takes to mimic Amazon Go's technology. AVA Retail uses artificial intelligence, computer vision, and IoT sensors to track customer purchases within a store. They have a lot of domain knowledge in the retail space, and so they're able to provide solutions to retailers, but they need some computing. So they've partnered recently with Microsoft to try to launch cashierless technology for retail environments. With AVA Retail providing the retail capabilities and the sensors, and Microsoft providing the computing, this is actually a really good partnership to provide to customers cashier-free checkout. And this is a fairly recent partnership, so I define this as the cutting edge of retail analytics. On the next slide, I want to compare some of the capabilities that we're familiar with of 3 big retailers in the US. We're looking at Walmart, Kroger, and Target. Now, Kroger and Target are very different. Kroger focuses a lot more on groceries, but they're a retail provider too. So they have some solutions that I think are worth mentioning. Walmart here is the number one, the largest retailer in the US, serves something like 95% of Americans at one point or another. They've experimented with smart cards and filed a patent in 2017 on that matter. They've experimented with computer vision, launching a system called Eden to track produce freshness and optimize supply chain and reduce waste. They also launched their Scan and Go app, which we covered. That was dropped. Kroger has a Scan, Bag, and Go. It's an app-based self-checkout. That is expected to launch fully by the end of 2018, so the start of 2019. That has been successful and well received. They've been able to do personalized product recommendations based on data gathered in store, including things like personalized recipes that use their own products. And they have a 2,200 smart shelf trial that they're launching. So for them, this is really important, and it makes a lot of sense in their environment. Target's capabilities are impressive as well. They're the 8th largest retailer in the US, if we include retailers like Kroger and Amazon. They touch something like 84% of Americans. So 84% of Americans have shopped there in a given year. Target has a high-performance computing center, which we've discussed, and can do personalization based on its large database of customer information. It's well equipped to lead in-store analytics, but we could not find any particular trials around smart carts, smart shelves, or computer vision that are launched in stores. Please intervene here if you have updated information. Okay, so moving on to the next slide. Just comparing retailers' capabilities, summarizing some of the ones I've mentioned. Walmart Eden, Amazon Go, and other solutions from retail providers like enhanced self-checkout theft prevention, which uses computer vision. That's from a company called Stoplift. And customer demographics identification. That's from a company called Retail Next, using computer vision and cameras. The goal here of retail analytics, as we see it, is omni-channel presence. So having multiple inputs feed a cohesive picture of the customer and the retail space. Just having all sensors centralizing data for sort of integrated insights. We've compared retailers here, and we think Target is a little behind in that space, but really well poised to lead the charge. On the next slide, we have some interesting research that lots of shoppers in the US are willing to accept more data collection if it improves their customer experience. So this is where we see potential for growth, and we'll talk about what kinds of solutions would work best for Target starting out. Next slide.
Fantastic. So we looked at the retail space, we saw what other people are doing, learned their lessons from the drawbacks of Amazon, Kroger, and looked at Target's primary value proposition that it has is data collection and a large number of stores. We also looked at the current technologies Target has. Todd, Kelly, and Atta were very, very helpful when we had initially spoken with them. And based on that, we have a few proposals to make. So again, feel free to interject whenever necessary. Could we have the next slide, please? So our first idea is fairly simple. It is just doing in-store cart tracking. So using a small beacon, a Bluetooth beacon, I'll talk about the technology in the next slide, but we can track the cart and therefore the user. And this allows us to get some KPIs that will be very helpful to the vendors. In particular, the dwell time, the shopping paths, how they've engaged with particular aisles, whether end cap or inline, if it's working, not working, A/B testing, etc. So these in-store metrics are relatively easy to get using this particular technology with a very, very low cost. One of the reasons we decided to not proceed with the camera idea is primarily because we saw the pitfalls Amazon has. Amazon has incredible computational resources, and yet it still requires a 10-minute delay before picking up a product and that to be reflected onto your app, which can result in a negative experience. Could we have the next slide, please? So the technology we'll be using here is a simple BLE, that is Bluetooth Low Energy Beacon, that would be installed underneath the cart. We currently have BLE sensors in every single light fixture at Target, so being able to integrate that should be relatively easy. And this way we can track every single cart. As Javin had mentioned earlier, the golden ticket is being able to connect the in-store customer with their online profile. A quick way and an easy way of doing that, hopefully, would be at point of sales. We can take the cart's location and timestamp and tie it back with the credit card or debit card the customer has used to pay, and therefore tie that piece of information. There are some issues and risks, of course. First would be charging of these beacons. They are low energy, but will require their batteries to be replaced, or we could put charging station, docking stations, where every night the cards get recharged. We'll have to do a little bit of modifications on each of the carts, and then tying it at POS with their cart position might be tricky. We are expecting the costs to be around $10. This includes installation costs, and this is per cart. This has the advantage that we can test it out in multiple stores and expand it to the edge as necessary. Could we have the next slide, please? Our second idea, a slightly upgraded version of this, would be taking an RFID sensor or RFID scanner and putting it inside every single cart. The primary advantage of being able to do that will be every time a customer picks up a particular object, especially that has an RFID tag, and puts it into the cart, it will come up with that information on their app. The way it works, I will explain in a moment, but the primary reason we want to do this is we can get a KPI such as cart abandonment, and we can also give targeted ads to customers. And this way we get a better gauge of how they are engaging with the particular products. One thing we noticed when we visited Target stores in California, a lot of customers will pick up a particular object and go online to try and find reviews or price matching and just information online. This will be easier and a far faster way of being able to go do this. Could you have the next slide, please? One thing I would like to stress over here, it does use the Cartwheel app. However, you do not have to have the Cartwheel app to be able to use the cart itself. But if you want to get the biggest benefits of the RFID tag, all you'll have to do is take your app, scan a QR code that exists onto the cart itself, and based on that, you can then connect your cart to your phone. The technology we'll be using will be an RFID scanner, QR codes, the Cartwheel app, and a BLE beacon for cart tracking, which remains from the previous slides I had mentioned earlier. Issues and risks. We will need RFID tags to be added to multiple products, especially the high margin products we like, but the advantage is that's already being done in most of the cases. There might be some lag in updating the app and that we need to look into this, and the app needs to be used. This is a great incentive to cause people to use the app, but there still has to be that additional necessity for them to use the app to get this functionality. The estimated costs are around $45 to $60 per cart and 3 cents for every single tag. The best advantage of this could be is that we are now creating a platform technology on which we can do a lot many more things, such as self-checkout. Could we have the next slide, please? This could be the final step in the series of 3 steps, where if every single product at Target can have an RFID, passive RFID tag, and we have scanners in these carts. The moment a customer walks into the store, takes their cart, scans their QR code just once onto the cart itself, all the customer needs to do after that is take all the products they like, put it into their cart, and walk out. The moment they walk out, because of the RFID scanners, every single product will be scanned, associated with their e-cart or their cart on their cart wheel, and paid automatically. This will cause frictionless checkout in real time. For vendors, we get real-time POS sales data since it will be tied to their online sales. For the shoppers, this creates a virtual cart environment in the store. It's far more faster and more convenient. This also frees up employees from the cashier desk and they can spend more time helping customers. The adoption cost to the shoppers will be small. That will be using the app, but the e-payment method already exists and people are comfortable with it. Could we have the next slide, please? The technology implementation will be the same as previously discussed. The only additional aspect we recommend is having a secondary RFID scanner, a larger one at the exit counter. This is primarily to ensure that no RFID tag has been missed or counted twice by mistake. There are, again, issues and risks. Primarily, theft and cheating can become a problem. We may need to rework a significant part of the ecosystem that this exists in, and the failure to recognize RFID tags always exists. The estimated costs would be, again, $45 to $60 per card, 3 cents per tag, and $2,000 for the secondary RFID scanners. The other benefit of this would be we can get a very accurate track of inventory that currently exists and what has been taken and not taken from the store. Could we have the next slide, please? So in summary, in-store retail metrics are an unmet need. Vendors are very, very hungry for KPIs besides POS for in-stores. Target is ideally positioned in this particular space because it already has technology in-store and has fantastic customer insights. The smart card will be an incremental advance in technology, but can deliver on multiple fronts and can have tremendous benefits overall. And there is always the potential for easy checkout solutions. From the Target's annual report, personalized guest experience and collection and use of accurate and relevant guest data is the two biggest things Target brings to the table. Next slide, please. Thank you so much. Genuinely, thank you, Kellen, Daniel, Emily, Todd, Atta, and Louis for listening in. If you have any questions, now would be the best time.